Hello, my name is Modram and today I'm going to take a look at Atomic Heart, a Bioshock-style shooter RPG with Portal puzzle elements set in an alternate post-World War II sci-fi setting. This stunning-looking game was developed by Mundfish, located in Cyprus, and was their first title. However, most of their team is international. A lot of speculation surrounded this game, so it wasn't clear how this one would turn out in the end. But I think they produced a spectacular title. Absolutely amazing visuals, a banger OST, visceral satisfying combat, and buttery smooth controls made this one a joy to play. Sure, there are some issues that took away from the experience, like bugs, crashes and underdeveloped mechanics, but nothing was a clear deal breaker by any means. Far from it. Also, the performance of this game is absolutely insane for how this one looks and plays. 1440p, max settings, stable 144 FPS with nearly no dips. This is how games should be released. So applause for this, because the devs deserve it. As always, I will keep spoilers to a minimum, although there will be some light ones in this video to highlight some things like combat, dialogue, animations and more. Also make sure to leave a like and sub. First, a few things you need to know. This game is filled with sexual innuendo to the absolute brim. If you do not like this type of humor, this game is definitely not for you. But if you enjoy this, buckle up, because this game has so much to offer. And it's not just dirty jokes. There is quite a bit of dark humor and just dumb stuff thrown in there, like one puffing a single cigarette and throwing it away. Sergei never smokes again throughout the whole game. Also, who eats a massive ice cream in just 4 bites? It just takes you by surprise constantly, especially in the first half of the game. Now, speaking of game length, this one is quite short, clocking in around 12 to 15 hours of playtime. There is also no post-game and no new game plus. Once you finish the main story, that's it. Additionally, this game is quite linear. You have to follow a set story and there is no deviation from the given path. The endings in this game are a timed choice at the very end. And one last bit about the difficulty, you can choose between easy, normal and hard. I personally found normal giving me the perfect amount of challenge and I would recommend it to anyone. Hard can easily spiral into frustration, especially later in the game. Let's start with the game's premise and storytelling. You play as Sergei Nechayev, a special agent serving under Sechenov, the genius mind behind the Collective Project, a neural network of AI-assisted robots. The game's world is at first depicted as a true utopia. Humans can do whatever they want, with robots taking care of heavy labor jobs. But everything changes when the robots attack. People are getting crushed left and right, and you're right in the middle of it all. Everything feels like a fever dream. A babushka whips out a rocket launcher and starts blasting. A BDSM fridge sexually assaults you constantly throughout the whole game, and weird locks make you question your sanity. And to top it all off, even dead people start talking to you through the miracle of science. But your job is clear. You have to follow Sechenov's orders and find the evildoer that set the robots loose. So, you do your job's description justice and become the living embodiment of a metal crusher venturing through the experimental sites to complete your mission. The story in this game is told through cutscenes and a lot of voice dialogue throughout the whole game. You can also find additional dead NPCs, recordings and computers that you can interact with to gain more knowledge about what happened before the collapse. But nothing is really necessary to understand what's going on. I personally even started to skip parts because there was just so much, and you are bombarded with main story dialogue, chatter and cutscenes anyway. Now the actual story is pretty solid and unique, in a special way, but there is something that spoils the whole meal. The main character. He is unbelievably dumb and really annoying. He's constantly swearing, shouting at his personal AI glove, blindly trusts Sechenov and displays overall childlike behavior, which makes him unrelatable and unlikable. It's not like they couldn't have written a better character, they just aimed for something like this. As mentioned before, all dialogue is voice acted. The overall quality is great and it was a solid experience all around. Especially the robots were amazing.
I won't waste your time.
Okay.
My personal favorite is a service robot that trash talks exhibits, because the real ones ripped her arms off.
Monstrous mustache off. But this one, you're not even a machine, you nitwit. You're just an imitation, a caricature, a piece of lab equipment. Pardon the outburst. It's just that one of them used to try to... Oh well, let's change the subject.
And there is lots of really good moments that made me chuckle. The BDSM fridge got me a few times.
You look so focused, honey.
Are you thinking about me?
Buzz off, I'm working on my equipment.
Next, let's talk about Ost and sound design. The music in this game is absolutely insane. I stopped writing my tracks multiple times just so I could listen to the soundtrack. It's seriously good and easily one of my top 10 Osts of all time. The pieces are unique and switch between rock, metal, techno, synth, classical, house and even some Russian pop. There is something for everyone here, but the way the music is played makes it truly special. Some songs are only played through speakers found throughout the world. The volume adjusts as you come closer and immerses you into the world. Remember, people here were in the middle of festivities before shit hit the fan. And combat music is unique that it adjusts based on their surroundings. The overworld tracks increase in intensity based on your threat level. And the experimental side ones change constantly and are based on the rooms you are currently in.
Testing Ground 1's magnetic and mechanical work.
Walking through a corridor to hear the music increase in clarity and volume until you reach a test room greatly enhance the gameplay. My ears feel blessed. Now, since I mentioned test rooms, let's talk about puzzles in this game. There is a huge variety of stuff they throw at you. I just never found myself bored with what they came up with. Some puzzle types were of course recycled and used over and over again, but the sheer volume of different things made this one completely okay. In fact, I think there was even a bit too much variety here, specifically later parts of Atomic Heart. I walked into rooms multiple times to be greeted with completely unique stuff I never saw again. The ball maze and snake game immediately come to mind. This is a trend throughout the whole game, and it gets worse the further you progress. The surface is especially bad. The game introduces balloons you can call down that don't really serve any purpose after you use them to gain access to a boss arena. The world also looks pretty and is large, but there is nothing in between test sites. Most buildings cannot be entered, looted or even interacted with. There are no NPCs, weapons, blueprints for crafting or special resources to discover. The world is void of any side content except for the test sites. Their surface just felt completely underdeveloped, and I was even annoyed multiple times. Walking from one POI to the next with absolutely nothing to do in between sucked. And to make it worse, you cannot run. You're kind of slow even with the increased move speed perk. However, there is something you can do to make it a bit better. Cars. But again, there is problems with them. Their controls are janky and they tend to explode when you crash into something. Enemies, other vehicles and landslides also tend to block your path, which further decreases their usefulness. All of those problems make me sad, because the world is pretty and looks like there could be a lot of fun to be had here. Next, let's move to gameplay. First, the overall responsiveness of this game felt amazing. All inputs correspond to actions immediately, and everything felt snappy. This is further improved by their decision to incorporate seamless sidestep type dodging that can be used during any action. This is perfectly utilized during all kinds of gameplay, be it puzzles where you have to dash to reach the other platform, getting in and out of polymer water floating in midair, or combat itself to dodge and jump over enemy attacks. Well, except one mechanic, climbing. This one felt janky and buggy at times. It's slow and sluggish, which contradicts all the fast and light movement in the game. Now I barely encountered bugs in this game, which was a truly refreshing experience. The few instances were tied to climbing and jumping. Just to name a few, I clipped through floors multiple times, climbed on a counter but floated into a wall instead and couldn't move anymore. And I got stuck on floor clutter like metal sheets because the game thought I needed to climb over it. The last one was very common. Since I am talking about bugs and crashes already, I crashed 2 times. Both were tied to the stash the game provides to store items. Drag and drop causes this randomly and lost me a few minutes of progress. Not a big deal and it will probably be fixed quickly, but a heads up for you guys. With that out of the way, let's move on to combat. It's really good. Responsive, impactful, engaging and buttery smooth. I absolutely loved it and wanted to fight enemies whenever I could. Whipping out my axe to smack unfortunate beings into oblivion while dodging to the beat of a blood-boiling, high testosterone soundtrack was one thing, but whipping out the railgun and rocket launcher to absolutely obliterate everything standing before me was even better. The pistol gunplay was unsatisfying, but once I unlocked the automatic rifles and heavy weaponry combined with the force, blessed by violence. It was an absolute joy to play the first 2/3 of this game. It introduced new foes constantly, keeping me on my toes. I had to scan enemies for their weaknesses and adapt to their resistances. Boss introductions made my blood pump and engaged me into high-octane visceral combat, seamlessly transitioning from a short cutscene into the action. But there is something that made me fear encounters later in the game, the Plush. This wretched spawn of Satan himself needed to be engaged in honorable melee combat as a boss in a 1v1 arena, but is later thrown into the mix as a normal enemy, even 2 or 3 at a time, combined with walking materials to make my existence pure suffering. Baiting them into doorways to blast them with rockets is not very effective because they start to relentlessly throw their garbage at me, knocking me on my ass repeatedly. But this is not the only spawn of hell thrown at you late in the game. Roadrunner's mechanical twin also makes an appearance. All of them love to knock you over, with lengthy animations interrupting an otherwise pleasurable experience. Now this garbage section is only 1 to 1.5 hours long right for the end of the game, so it wasn't too hard to swallow. But I cannot imagine the suffering you experience when playing this one on hard. Now, beating enemies rewards you with loot. Polymer can be used to unlock abilities and perks, and materials can be used to upgrade your weaponry and craft consumables. The perks you can unlock are stuff like additional health, more damage resistance, more move speed and more inventory space, as well as additional dodge charges. So nothing special, but I maxed out the whole tree here because it increased the quality of life of my playthrough substantially. My favorite ability was the Force, and could be upgraded with additional area of effect, more damage and the ability to lift heavier foes. So just plain old upgrades. Weapons are a bit different. You need to unlock blueprints for most, and they need to be crafted afterwards. The specific weapon parts also need to be found in test sites and during your main story, but they can also be upgraded up to 4 times once installed. Now the system gives you a moderate amount of customizability. Nearly all weapons come with a regular attack and alternate fire, which lets you choose your preference depending on the upgrades you choose. I personally love the charge attack on my axe, so I heavily leaned into that, but I could have sacrificed it in favor of a completely different alternate fire or even more damage on my regular attack. The only weapon that has no upgrade is the railgun, but it also disintegrates enemies without leaving any loot behind, so you probably want to use it when you're nearly fully upgraded anyway. And the last thing, death is punishing. You can only save at save stations, so if you unexpectedly die, you lose everything until your last save point. This game, however, has checkpoints and saves for you sometimes, but the open world doesn't have them. Now let's wrap up the video. As for positives, Atomic Heart features excellent performance and optimization. The gameplay is super smooth, especially combat. We are also blessed with good visuals, even on the lowest settings. There is a lot of variety in terms of puzzles and gameplay elements. You can find a lot of additional story bits to consume. The progression system is good and simple. There are a few optional puzzle sites for weapon modules and upgrades. The Austin sound design is an absolute banger. There is elevator music in this game. The voice acting is really good. I personally like the humor and the dumb jokes, but you have to love it. The boss fights and intros are really cool, and the main story was kind of good and unique. As for cons, the climbing and jumpy is a bit buggy and janky sometimes. There are a few underdeveloped gameplay elements, especially later in the game, like the camera towers and balloons. There are a few underutilized puzzles that are fun to do. Some boss enemies become regular enemies, which is kind of annoying. The open world feels empty. Death is very punishing since you can only save at save stations. The last section of this game was a drag and could have been cut without losing anything at all. Some sections of this game are really dark and I had trouble seeing some enemies, and the main character is annoying and unrelatable. Atomic Heart is a unique and flavorful dish served nearly perfectly. The first 2/3 of the game are excellent and lean into the strengths of this title. Exploring facilities, engaging in combat, upgrading my character and following the story were all fun and a joyous experience, especially with the exceptionally good performance and optimization, but the underdeveloped overworld, last facility and annoying main character dampen the fun a bit. Overall, an excellent experience, and I would highly recommend this game to anyone looking for BioShock meets Portal. Anyway, thank you for your support. I hope you liked the video, so make sure to like, comment and sub for more previews, reviews and guides. See you next time and bye!